project on prison reform, image empowerment, and aid program. There are logics that crime is the outcome of a diseased mind, and jail must have an environment of hospital for treatment and care. Quoted from the statements given by the father of the nation, Mahatma Gandhi. The context are as follows. Currently, there are about 4 lakh prisoners in 1,401 prisons institutions across India. In addition to the inmates, there are hundreds of thousands of family members, police personnel, judges, prosecutors, defenders, families of victims, and others who are directly or indirectly involved in the prison system. The issues emerging in the system shows that it is not designed to serve people well and needs to be restructured in a proper manner. Prisons in India and their administration are a state subject covered by item 4 under the state list in the 7th schedule of the Constitution of India. The management and administration of prisons falls exclusively in the domain of the state governments and is governed by the Prison Act 1894 and the prison manuals of the respective state governments. The prison system in India is still governed by the Archaic Prisons Act 1894 and the Prisoners Act 1900. The Prisons Act 1894 provides for corporal punishment in cases where a prison offence has been committed. Acts like willful disobedience of prisons regulations, use of threatening or intimidating language, immoral or incidents, behaviors, and feigning illness constitute a prison offence under the Act. The Act leaves the awarding of such punishment at the discretion of the jail superintendent. However, the Act has no provisions to examine the offence, no due process to arrive at the decisions, and no checks and balance for examining such cases. The prison manual addresses some of the anomalies existing in the Prison Act 1894. However, most of them have been continuing since colonial era and have not been updated. The Supreme Court of India recognizes the problems in the Indian prison system and has on several occasions ordered the state to reform the Prison Act 1894 to completely overhaul the various state prisons manuals and to implement the provisions upholding the prisoners' right in various cases. In the 1980s, the All India Committee for Jail Reforms, the Mullah Committee, found that the majority of the prison's population was from rural and agricultural backgrounds and that first-time offenders involved in technical or minor violations of law accounted for a large number of prisoners. A number of people have been imprisoned for non-payment of fines or due to inability to afford good legal representations or because of lack of security, financial or personal. As a result, first-time offenders or persons held for petty crimes spend years or even decades in prison, surrounded by hardened criminals. In 2005, the Bureau of Police Research and Development engaged prison officials, academics, and prison experts in drafting a model national prison manual. Some of the most important recommendations of the manual included the creation of new bodies, including a Department of Prisons and Correctional Services and a full-time National Commission on Prisons, and focusing on using alternatives to imprisonment, renewing the focus on prisoners' rehabilitation, reducing the prison population, and modernizing the prisons themselves. The manual was shared with the states and various civil society organizations working in the area of prisons and prisoners' rights. However, little has been done thereafter. Further, prison reforms are essentially a state subject. Therefore, there is no accountability of any kind from the central government. Even national agencies like the National Human Rights Commission or the Bureau of Police Research and Development cannot ensure the implementation of policies and schemes listed in the Model Act of the manual. Rationale. Law presumes every person to be innocent until proven guilty beyond reasonable doubts in the court of law. Article 21 of the Constitution provides that no one shall be deprived of their life or personal liberty except according to the procedures established by law. This procedure must be reasonable, fair, and just. Otherwise, any deprivation would be illegal. The criminal justice system embodies the theory of bail and not jail, and even a single day of confinement beyond necessities under law amount to illegal detention and is a violation of the fundamental rights. Prisons are plagued with myriad problems. Some of these are overcrowding, understaffing, lack of adequate medical care, physical mistreatment of prisoners resulting in custodial deaths, inadequate conditions for female and juvenile detainees, improper maintenance of toilets, non production of under trial prisoners in courts, neglect in the grant of parole, poor administration, long detaining of those awaiting trial, and inability of prisoners to communicate with counsel, administrators, and family. Women with children and those facing mental challenges are among the worst affected groups. The absence of adequate medical assistance and lack of access to psychiatric services contributes to the deplorable conditions. A lot to unhealthy prisoners, both at physical and mental level, are languishing in jails. The rate of suicide is also very high, given the backdrop of brutality and violence in Indian jails. Scope of work for prison reforms emits empowerment and associated aid program in India. In context of existing legal mandates in India for reasonable consideration of the human rights of the inmates, we can join hands to transform the jail governance system as per the provisions of the Model National Prison Manual. To accomplish this goal, following initiatives are identified: to define the prison offense in the light of international human rights frameworks, appraisal and improvement in the components of the role and responsibilities of the jail superintendent, advocacy for reasonable amendments in Prison Act 1894, formulation and implementation of guidelines for establishment of legal supply system for inmates imprisoned for non-payment of fines or due to inability to afford good legal representations or because of lack of surety, financial or personal. Policy advocacy at national level for establishment of departments of prison and correctional services are a full-time national commission on prison as per the recommendations of Model National Prison Manual proposed by Bureau of Police Research and Development in 2005. Policy research and experiments with potential model system on using alternatives to imprisonment, renewing the focus on prisoners' rehabilitation, reducing the prison population, and modernizing the prison themselves. Experimenting models for resolutions of reasonable problems of inmates in jails with a special emphasis on overcrowding, understaffing, lack of adequate medical care, physical mistreatment of prisoners resulting in custodial deaths, inadequate conditions for female and juvenile detainees, improper maintenance of toilets, non-production of under trial prisoners in courts, neglect in the grant of parole, poor administrations, long detention of those awaiting trials, and the inability of the prisoners to communicate with counsel, administrators, and family. Development of standard operation guidelines for different categories of inmates and its pilot testing. Development of guidebooks for jail superintendents to deal with different categories of inmates with reasonable explanations of ethical legal dimensions of different cases in case study formats. The proposal: Awaken India Foundation will implement pilot projects for prison reforms, inmate empowerment, and associated aid programs in close coordination with the concerned governments and non-government organizations. Awaken India Foundation and Introduction. Awaken India Foundation is a non-profit, non-partisan, and non-sectarian organization formed by a group of highly passionate people coming from different walks of life, including scientists, academics, philosophers, thinkers, and other professionals with various experience and expertise in different domain disciplines, channelizing their energies towards creating an informed citizenry. Awaken India intends to ignite the spark which is within each individual, leading them towards the path of higher level of consciousness or evolution. It aims at helping people and society unleashing happiness to unlock infinite potential within. The endeavor is not just to make difference to individual soul, but also improvise collective social consciousness. Another aspect of Awaken India works is that it also renders assistance to strengthen across access to justice for those particularly poor, underprivileged, and marginalized section of the society who have no means to afford legal resources for securing their constitutional rights or are absolutely unaware about the law and legal right enshrined in the Constitution of India. The endeavor is to eliminate injustice from the society by spiritual awakening and steering the conscience of the people who hold positions of authority and are under oath to serve the humanity, be it the judge, the law enforcement officials, the bureaucrats, or the politicians. Awaken India is truly a citizens' movement to sensitize and create awareness among people at large about socio-economic issues, legal and constitutional rights and duties, as well as building individual social responsibilities. It works to empower the most vulnerable categories of women and youth in India in order to enable them to break the chains and bondage of poverty by way of imparting right kind of education and various vocational and life skills. The credo of the organization is to make legal protection an economic opportunity, not the privilege of the few, but the right of all. Awaken India Foundation works in close coordination and association with reputed institutions and organizations at the national level having similar objectives and ideologies, civil society organizations, government agencies, and other like minded organizations to accomplish its objectives. We are committed to the highest standards of excellence, accountability, transparency, and credibility in everything that we do not behave of all stakeholders and community at large. We have set in motion a non sectarian universal movement aimed at catalyzing the spiritual regenerations of humanity. Proposed interventions for pilot project on prison reforms, image empowerment, and associated aid programs. In the above backdrop, Awaken India Foundation is initiating certain imminent interventions with a view to making prisons a better place and to creating a new hope in the lives of prison inmates through positive affirmations, value education, counseling, skilling, and rehabilitation measures so as not only to help them become reformed and conscientious citizens but also to empower and make them self-reliant post-release. In the first phase, the prisons in and around the Delhi NCR, Ghaziabad, Gurugram, and Faridabad are being targeted for undertaking special interventions, whereafter the model shall be replicated in other prisons across the country in a phased manner. Interventions plan. Number 1. Legal aid and counseling services to prisoners. The persons in jail are largely from the marginalized strata of society, and most of them are illiterate. They cannot afford to hire a lawyer, nor can they approach lawyers. Awaken India Foundation has therefore decided to launch an initiative aimed at providing legal counseling, legal aid, and assistance for underprivileged under trials lodged in jails to be implemented in a phased manner across the country. The selection of under trials eligible for assistance shall be done by a committee of eminent jurists and people of acclaimed credibility, strictly as per the criteria laid down. Number 2. Securing bail to under trial prisoners. The statistics of National Crime Records Bureau indicates that an alarming number of almost 85% of the total prisoners are under trials, many of whom have been languishing in jails for periods longer than their prison terms had they been convicted. Most of these under trials suffer in jails mainly due to their ignorance of law or their inability to pay the meager amounts required for bail bonds and even sureties from someone to secure bails. There are several cases where the under trials remains incarcerated in jails due to the police fabricating evidence against them and ultimately found innocent by the court later. Obviously, some of the innocent under trials become perpetrators of crime since injustice would only breed hatred and violence. The Honorable Supreme Court as well as Honorable High Courts have held in many of judicial pronouncements that the inability of an under trial to get bail was a denial of the fundamental rights under Article 21. Further, under Article 21A reads with 39A of the Constitution, every person has the right of legal defense and the state is duty bound to provide the same to those who cannot afford it. However, these evoked provisions are being unscrupulously violated. Awaken India Foundation shall identify these under trials prisoners who are eligible to be released on bail but are still languishing inside due to lack of surety or awareness of legal provisions, and would make all out efforts to secure their release and mainstream them with the society. Number three, skill development, vocational training, and rehabilitation of prisoners. Awaken India Foundation shall conduct skill development and vocational training programs for all prisoners with main focus on women and youth whose convictions term is the verge of completion. For example, those prisoners who are about to be released within a span of 3 or 6 months so as to ensure their financial independence and thus help in their rehabilitation and integration with the society. The endeavor is to enable them emerge out as a better person and lead a respectable life post release. Number four, improvement in facilities for inmates. There is a special need for improvement in the way female inmates are treated and the accommodations being provided to them, as the present facilities are grossly inadequate. Number five, value education and motivational sessions for inmates. Awaken India Foundation aims at helping the inmates in fighting out depressions through counseling and value education program so as to make their lives more meaningful. It will organize periodic motivational sessions and also conduct yoga and meditation sessions beside life skill and spiritual workshops. This will be absolutely non sectarian, and all prisoners, irrespective of religion, caste, creed, community, or race, will be covered. Number six, medical camps for inmates. Organizing medical checkups at regular interval for both male and female inmates along with their children to facilitate appropriate medical care and treatment and ensure their well-being. Number seven, working in juvenile homes to work with juveniles in conflict with law and help in their reintegration back in the society post their release from the juvenile homes. Number eight, establishing a network of various groups including NGOs, lawyers, prison officials, legal aid panels, social workers, etc. There is a need for increasing coordination and communication between NGOs, social workers, lawyers, legal aid panels, sociologists, and prison officials. This will ensure better implementation of law and schemes, improved prison conditions, and greater accountability. Awaken India Foundation will network with all the key stakeholders and organize periodic training and sensitization programs in collaboration with lawyers groups and NGOs working in the field to raise awareness about prisoners' rights among the inmates and to bring about improvement in the conditions of jails. Number nine, capacity building training for jail superintendent and staffs of adapted jails on national model prison manuals. We will conduct a special orientation training for the jail superintendent staffs of adopted jail for pilot implementation of national model prison manuals. Number 10, development of case study based information, education and communication materials, IEC/BCC materials. Case study based IEC/BCC materials would be developed to sensitize the concerned officials about appropriate and ethical legal treatment to different incidents of conflict with law based on our personal interaction with prisoners. We have selected DANSNA Jail of Ghaziabad for piloting of the proposed concepts. The position of the Ghaziabad prison DASNA. Serial number, specification and strength. Sanction strength are 1704. Male, female and others are as follows, like 1546 male could be occupied, 94 females could be occupied and others 64 could be occupied into the respective cells. Total actual population 4839, male 4501, female 155. Then about convicted, other convicted as 720 3773 34121. It is as follows. Overcrowding ratio is 2.83. So the statistics is given and the rationals are presented. Hence, appropriate means should be initiated for its implementation. Thank you.